Deep within the quiet chambers of their heart, your person carries a burden that grows heavier with each passing day. They know, with an awareness that pierces through every attempt at denial, that they can no longer sustain the facade they have constructed. The illusions they have hidden behind, the deceptions they have carefully maintained, these false walls are crumbling beneath the weight of an undeniable truth that demands to be spoken. The lies they told you are not simply words that have faded into the past. They are living weights upon their conscience, pressing down with an insistence that refuses to be ignored. Every moment of silence, every day that passes without confession, only intensifies this burden until it becomes almost unbearable. In the depths of their being, they understand completely that eventually, inevitably, they will need to face you with the full truth of what they have concealed. This is not merely a possibility they consider in fleeting moments of guilt. It is a certainty that haunts their waking hours and invades their dreams, a reckoning they know is approaching whether they feel ready for it or not. At this particular juncture in their journey, they find themselves submerged in a numbness that has become their constant companion. This is not the temporary numbness of shock or surprise, but rather a profound and pervasive emptiness that has slowly filled every space in their life since the moment you departed from their world. Without your presence, without the light you brought into their existence, they discover themselves consumed by a misery so complete that it colors everything they experience. The regret they feel is not something that visits them occasionally. It is a permanent resident in their heart, an aching sense of loss that refuses to diminish no matter how many sunrises and sunsets pass by. Time, which is supposed to be the great healer, has brought them no relief. Instead, each day seems to deepen their understanding of what they have lost, making the absence of you even more pronounced, even more painful to endure. They are painfully, acutely aware that they are the architect of this separation. They cannot blame circumstance or fate or any external force for the distance between you. This knowledge, this unavoidable recognition of their own responsibility, only serves to amplify the torment of their current reality. If someone else had caused this pain, perhaps they could direct their anguish outward. But knowing that they themselves created this situation, that their own choices and actions led to this devastating outcome, this makes the suffering exponentially more difficult to bear. Their thoughts return again and again to everything you gave them, everything you were to them. They remember with crystalline clarity the way you opened your heart and offered your love so freely, without reservation or condition. They recall how you stood beside them during their darkest hours, when they needed someone most desperately, when the world felt cold and uncertain. You were their anchor, their safe harbor, their constant source of warmth and reassurance. They remember how you continuously brought light into their life, how your very presence seemed to illuminate even the shadows, transforming ordinary moments into something precious and meaningful. To them, you are far more than a memory that occasionally surfaces in quiet moments. You are not simply a person who once occupied a chapter in their story and then moved on to become part of their past. No, you represent something infinitely more significant. You are their true love, the embodiment of everything they ever wished for, the fulfillment of dreams they hardly dared to acknowledge. No matter how hard they might try to convince themselves otherwise, no matter what distractions or substitutes they attempt to place in the space you once occupied, nothing and no one can replace what you meant to them. Within their heart exists a deep and bottomless reservoir of love, respect, and admiration that they continue to hold for you. This is not a feeling that has faded with time or distance. If anything, it has grown stronger, more intense, more undeniable with each moment of reflection. The more they contemplate their mistakes, the more they examine the choices that led to this separation, the more profoundly they recognize the depth and irreplaceable nature of what they lost when they lost you. They have come to understand, with a clarity that is both painful and illuminating, that there is no one else who can compare to you. They have looked, perhaps consciously or unconsciously, for someone who might fill the void you left behind. But no one embodies the kind of love, the depth of connection, the quality of understanding that they once shared with you. Letting you go stands as their greatest mistake, a decision they never imagined would haunt them with such relentless intensity and such profound regret. At the time, in those moments when they made the choices that led to this separation, they genuinely believed they could simply move forward. They thought they could escape the consequences of their actions, that they could close that chapter and begin anew without looking back. They convinced themselves that life would continue relatively unchanged, that they would adapt and adjust, and eventually the memory of you would fade into something manageable, something that no longer held power over their heart. But the truth has arrived with the force of an avalanche, crashing down upon them with undeniable and overwhelming power. They can no longer pretend or rationalize or minimize what they have done. The reality of their choices has caught up with them, and there is no escaping it now. Misleading you, lying to you, concealing truths that you deserve to know, these actions represented not only a betrayal of the trust you placed in them, but also a betrayal of their own authentic self. They compromised their integrity, abandoned their values, and chose deception over honesty. And now, finally, they see this truth with devastating clarity. The fog of justification has lifted, the excuses have crumbled away, and they are left standing face to face with the magnitude of their mistakes. They have finally, irrevocably realized that this choice, the decision to deceive, to walk away, to allow pride or fear or stubbornness to dictate their actions, was quite possibly the worst decision they have ever made in their entire life. This is not hyperbole or exaggeration. In the honest accounting of their years, in the evaluation of their choices and their consequences, this stands out as their greatest error, the one that has cost them the most, the one they would undo if time could somehow be reversed. Now, in a twist that feels almost cosmic in its symmetry, the tables have turned completely. There is a balance in the universe, a natural justice that insists on equilibrium, and they are now experiencing firsthand the very pain they once inflicted upon you. What they put you through during those difficult times, the heartache, the confusion, the sense of betrayal and abandonment, this is now precisely what they must endure themselves. They feel the sharp sting of rejection, the particular agony of being on the outside looking in, of being the one who is no longer chosen, no longer welcomed. They know intimately the ache of silence, that terrible absence of communication that speaks volumes in its emptiness. They experience those endless nights of wondering, tossing and turning in darkness, questioning whether they will ever have the opportunity to make things right, to correct their mistakes, to prove that they have learned and grown and changed. They cannot escape the memories of how they hurt you. These recollections pursue them relentlessly, appearing in quiet moments, intruding upon their attempts to distract themselves or move forward. Life itself has forced them into a position where they must sit with the consequences of their actions, where they must feel the full weight of what they have done. There is no running from this, no convenient escape route that would allow them to avoid this reckoning. The embarrassment they feel is acute and consuming. They are ashamed, deeply and thoroughly ashamed, by the words they once spoke and the actions they once took. Looking back with the perspective that only distance and reflection can provide, they struggle to comprehend how they allowed themselves to treat someone they genuinely loved so poorly, so carelessly, with such disregard for your feelings and your well-being. It seems almost incomprehensible to them now that they could have been so blind, so thoughtless, so willing to prioritize their own temporary comfort or convenience over your happiness. The heartbreak they feel in the present moment is amplified exponentially by the fact that there is currently no contact between you. This silence, this complete absence of communication, speaks louder than any words ever could. It is a void that torments them daily, hourly, in ways both subtle and overwhelming. They find themselves replaying moments from your shared past, watching these memories like films in their mind. They remember times when you laughed together, when the world felt light and joyful, when happiness seemed effortless and abundant. They recall instances when you comforted them during difficult times, offering reassurance and understanding without judgment. They revisit moments when you brought pure joy into their life, simply by being yourself, by sharing your energy and your presence with them. Now, however, these memories serve not as comfort but as painful reminders of what they have lost. Each recollection only highlights the stark contrast between what once was and what currently is, emphasizing the void they feel so intensely in your absence. The past has become both a treasure and a torture, something they cannot help but revisit even though each visit deepens their sense of loss. They wonder constantly, obsessively, what you are doing with your time now. How you are spending your days, who you are spending them with, what brings you joy or sorrow or any emotion in between. They question how you are feeling, whether you are happy or sad, at peace or struggling, healed or still nursing wounds. And perhaps most tormentingly of all, they wonder if you ever think of them. Do they still occupy any space in your thoughts? Do memories of your time together ever surface for you as they do so constantly for them? Or have you moved on completely, releasing them from your mind and heart as thoroughly as they once released you? Despite these questions, despite the uncertainty, they sense something that both comforts and pains them. They perceive, whether through intuition or observation or some deeper spiritual awareness, that you have found peace. They recognize that your energy has undergone a transformation, shifting to a higher vibration that makes you glow in ways they can no longer reach, in ways they feel they have forfeited the right to access. Your high vibration energy has become magnetic and alluring, something they can sense even from a distance, even without direct contact. It calls to them like a beacon, beautiful and powerful, yet seemingly beyond their grasp. They observe, or perhaps intuit, that you are genuinely at peace now, living your life without them in it. You have found a way to continue, to thrive, to exist in a state of equilibrium and contentment that no longer requires their presence or participation. And while this realization should, in theory, bring them some measure of comfort or relief, knowing that you are well and whole despite what they put you through, it instead has the opposite effect. It makes them feel the weight of their mistakes even more heavily, even more acutely than before. To them, you seem almost untouchable now, elevated to a place they cannot reach. You appear radiant in your independence and strength, glowing with a self-sufficiency and inner peace that makes you seem almost otherworldly. Meanwhile, they remain stuck, trapped in the aftermath of their choices, unable to move forward, unable to let go, caught in a liminal space between regret and longing. They remember clearly who you were when they first knew you. You were a happy person, genuinely content with life. You were light-hearted and joyful, someone who embraced each day with an open heart and a willingness to find beauty and meaning in simple things. You moved through the world with a grace and ease that seemed natural to you, unburdened by unnecessary drama or conflict. But they also know, with a knowledge that cuts deeply, that their actions disrupted that peace. They introduced unnecessary drama and conflict into your world, bringing chaos where there should have been tranquility, complications where there should have been simplicity. This realization is extraordinarily difficult for them to accept because it forces them to acknowledge their role as the disruptor, the one who brought darkness into a life that had been filled with light. They must now face the truth that they were the one who brought chaos where there should have been love, who created conflict where there should have been harmony and mutual support. They understand now, with a clarity that brings no comfort, that you deserved so much better than what they gave you. You deserved honesty instead of deception, consistency instead of uncertainty, respect instead of carelessness, love expressed through actions and not merely words. This truth cuts deeply into their heart, slicing through any remaining layers of denial or self-justification. But while it causes pain, it also serves a purpose. It opens their eyes in ways they had previously refused to see, forcing them to confront realities they had avoided or minimized or explained away. They now see you as someone far stronger than they ever realized when you were together. They recognize a strength in you that perhaps was always present but which they failed to fully appreciate or acknowledge. You are someone who made the difficult choice to protect your own energy, to establish boundaries, to walk away rather than continue enduring pain that served no purpose. You chose yourself when choosing you seemed to be beyond their capability. You valued your own well-being enough to remove yourself from a situation that was hurting you. This takes a kind of courage and self-respect that they are only now beginning to fully comprehend. Despite their profound regret, despite the weight of their mistakes and the heaviness of their current suffering, their admiration for you has only grown. If anything, the distance and the loss have allowed them to see you more clearly than they did when you were beside them every day. They think about the way you carried yourself with grace even when everything was falling apart around you, even when they were the source of that chaos and pain. They recall how you maintained your dignity, your sense of self, your core values even in the midst of heartbreak and disappointment. This grace under pressure, this ability to maintain your integrity even when you were hurting, humbles them profoundly. They know now, with absolute certainty, that they lost not only a romantic partner but also so much more. They lost a confidant, someone they could trust with their deepest thoughts and fears. They lost a healer, someone whose very presence seemed to soothe their wounds and ease their struggles. They lost a source of unconditional love, the kind of love that sees flaws and accepts them, that witnesses mistakes and offers grace anyway. This loss is irreplaceable. There is no substitute for what you were to them, no person who can step in and fill that void. And this irreplaceable loss has taught them lessons that are both painful and necessary, lessons about honesty and its fundamental importance in any relationship, about respect and what it truly means to honor another person, about the critical importance of cherishing those who matter most rather than taking them for granted or assuming they will always be there regardless of how they are treated. Now, in the present moment, they find themselves in a place of hope mingled with uncertainty. They are hoping, perhaps even praying if they maintain any connection to prayer or spiritual practice, that someday, somehow, they will have the chance to make things right. This is not a vague wish or a passing thought. It is something they long for with their entire being, something they would pursue if given even the slightest opportunity. They dream of the moment when they might tell you the truth in its entirety, holding nothing back, revealing every deception and explaining every choice that led to those deceptions. They envision opening up to you about their lies and their mistakes, not to make excuses but simply to ensure you know the full story, to give you the complete picture you always deserve to have. They imagine showing you, through both words and actions, that they have learned from this pain, that they have grown through this suffering, that they are not the same person who made those choices that hurt you so deeply. Whether or not they will ever be given that chance remains uncertain. The future is unwritten, and you hold the power to decide whether they will ever be part of your life again in any capacity. They understand this. They know they cannot force or manipulate or convince their way back into your world. The decision is entirely yours to make, and they must respect whatever you choose, even if that choice does not include them. But regardless of what the future holds, regardless of whether you ever speak to them again or whether this separation becomes permanent, one thing is absolutely clear and unshakable in their heart. They will never forget you. Your impact on their life, the mark you left upon their soul, is permanent and indelible. They will never stop loving you, because the love they feel is not conditional upon proximity or circumstances. It exists independently, a constant truth regardless of external factors. And they will never find another who compares to you, because you are truly unique, irreplaceable, one of a kind in ways they are only now beginning to fully comprehend. No matter how hard I try to distance myself from this connection we share, no matter how many times I tell myself firmly and with conviction to block out these feelings and move forward with my life as though you were never part of it, the truth I cannot escape is that my heart always finds its way back to you. This return is not a simple thing, not a momentary weakness or a fleeting impulse. It does not happen in the same way each time. Instead, it returns deeper, stronger, and more undeniable than before, as though each attempt to move away only strengthens the pull back toward you. I have genuinely tried to convince myself that I can ignore this connection, that I can push it aside through willpower or distraction or sheer determination. But honesty, that sometimes brutal force that will not allow me to hide from truth, forces me to admit otherwise. The attempts to deny what I feel have not worked. They cannot work, because what I feel for you is not something that can be dismissed or overcome through effort.